going to solve the issues of abduction, isn't it? The issue of social justice, the issue of equitability, and also look at Parliament. ODM has come to Parliament, and Parliament itself, according to every constitution, is illegitimate. Why am I trying to say so? There's no compliance with the gender, isn't it? People with disability. No, the gender thing in Parliament has never been addressed. So that's a big issue. Then, of course, now, how is it important to get Raila into AU, which is a big national issue? So the president should also outline that. Okay.
All right, the Deputy President, that is Kithure Kindiki, has already arrived at the National Assembly ahead of the President William Ruto's address this afternoon, addressing the two houses of the National, or two houses rather, on the state of the nation, giving us a report on exactly where we are, and where we are supposed to be going. Of course, so those are live pictures coming to you live from Parliament buildings. All right, we expect the President to be making his way any moment from now, because it is 2:09, and the address is supposed to be starting at 2:30 p.m. this afternoon. Okay.
Yeah, so I was just finishing the issue that Raila will be going for his election in 2025 in February, and it has become like a state project. It's be taken like, even there's a Ministry of Foreign Affairs working on it, there's a budget for it, a jet has been put in place. So we also expect him to tell us that after investing this much, because Raila's leadership at AU is so significant with Kenyan economic, let's say, direction, what can we expect from this? How can we expect?
So we expect him to get to address that particular issue?
Yeah, because it's a policy. It's a policy. It's been money invested in it. Okay. And it's a broad-based government that brought Raila Odinga into government. All right. And this is now, by Raila announcing I'm going to AU, you see everything change. The weather changed properly. Now there's a purge in Parliament. There's alignment in the National Assembly, which he's coming to. There's alignment in the national government. The former deputy president left because if not Raila, Kindiki could have not been deputy president. So you see, those are issues that must be addressed, because equity, uniting the nation together. The president has been talking about the uniting the nation. How are you uniting the nation when we might be trying to isolate any part of the country? So the issue of Raila going to AU is significant, because a jet being put aside, isn't it? 10 billion shillings being invested in that campaign, isn't it? Raila's candidature is important. So we want Kenya to understand, because there's a lot of misunderstanding. People think that Raila is going to AU is a personal achievement for Raila. Yet it has a national interest, and it's very important for Raila to get this seat there, because it will bring investors. We are looking for creation of jobs. How can AUCC help us assist Kenyans to create jobs? We are looking for attracting foreign direct investment. How will Raila sit in AUC attract investors to come to Kenya, so that we can help achieve the Kenyan dream?
All right. Still on the issue of human rights violation, and Steve, of course, you know, you work with the human rights. Talk to me about this in terms of, if you're going to be taking stock of exactly what happened in the last year, and also what is happening today, and what you expect to see in the coming days. And of course, we did have protests in 2023, the Azimio, you know, led protest against the Finance Bill 2023, and also the cost of living. We saw protests this year. We've seen human rights violation left, right, and center. It's not even something that we can say it's allegedly. It has been there in most cases, because we've seen that live on TV. Let's talk about that from where you sit as a human rights activist. Where are we?
Thank you very much, Brian. So firstly, I want to view this from our lenses, which we try to look at everything from a very human rights-based approach. And using our lenses and from where we sit, there has been extremely gross violations of human rights. I want to start by highlighting that this year we literally celebrated, I don't know whether it was a celebration or marked 14 years since we got the Constitution of Kenya 2010. Yeah. And with this constitution, it has been marked as a very progressive constitution. Kenya had been marked as a very safe haven for everybody who was looking for asylum, everybody who was running away from any human rights violations in their countries. Kenya was the place to be. But fast forward to 2024, we are seeing a complete degeneration and a complete water down of this safe haven that Kenya has been. And we can start from the abductions situation. And from abductions, we can clearly see that the state agencies, let me just say every duty bearer, because it just encompasses a good level of the state and all its agencies, highlighting that, look, we don't know who is abducting people, which is very concerning in one way or another, because based off the amount of apparatus and amount of personnel and security agencies in this country, they know everything that is happening. That is my perception. But saying you don't know who is conducting these abductions. Secondly, the very heavy contravention or violation of human rights and going against an international convention that Kenya is a signatory to, the 1951 Geneva Convention. I think it's the ICCPR, in terms of just providing asylum and ensuring that the rights of people seeking for asylum in Kenya are highly upheld and protected and advanced. We have seen several high-profile, and even for the local mwananchi, that people are scared of the Subaru situation. That as long as they pull up, let me use Gen Z language, they pull up next to you, you will literally run for no apparent reason. So we have seen a degeneration of human rights. We've seen very heavy violations, and we'd want to see a remedy to this based off the platform that the government stood on.
All right.
Yes.
And I believe that is a presidential motorcade to some extent, making its way to the National Assembly. Of course, President William Ruto expected to be addressing the nation on the state of the nation this particular afternoon. There you have it on your screens. Of course, on your screens, you can see that the presidential motorcade making its way to Parliament, where the president is expected to be giving his address to the nation this afternoon. We can see that motorcade, of course, outside Parliament buildings. We expect him to be addressing at 2:30. This is 2:14. Of course, they're supposed to be starting at 2:30, 2:14, making his way to the National Assembly. He's already arriving there, and of course, there you have it. As you can see him coming out of the vehicle there with different leaders just outside, welcoming the head of state at Parliament buildings for the State of the Nation address, accompanied by the First Lady of Kenya, that is Rachel Ruto. The head of state arriving at the National Assembly for the State of the Nation address this afternoon, supposed to be happening at 2:30, 2:15. He's already arrived, being received there by, of course, different leaders and also security forces to make his way to the National Assembly for his address to the nation on which direction the nation is taking, where we are at the moment as far as different issues are concerned, from matters healthcare to matters economy to matters inclusivity, and also what we've just been talking about here as far as human rights are concerned, with different people, having different issues to raise and expecting the president to get to address as he makes his State of the Nation address today. The farmers also have concerns as far as fertilizers is concerned, and also human rights groups like Steve here also having issues that they are hoping will actually be touched on this particular address. Prof, before we cross over to the National Assembly, I just want you to touch on something, real quick. I don't know if you're crossing over this particular moment, because yes, of course, yes, before we do that, on the state of the economy at the moment, there's that particular perception that, the economy is doing well, yet people cannot be able to feel that in their pockets. 1 minute before I cross over to the National Assembly. Give me.
Yeah, there's what they call economic growth, which has been projected at 5.2% growth. But that is the revenue the government collects. But economic development is how that money is channeled into goods of life like education, healthcare, cost of living, food, and clothing. So the issue is that the government has not been very effective in deploying this money to people to alleviate poverty, increase employment, look at
Papa. Right, President William Ruto there at the Parliament buildings right now, and of course this particular State of the Nation address is supposed to be taking place at 2:30 p.m. this afternoon. We're just 4 minutes away, and we'll be crossing over to that particular side to get to hear what will be happening as far as the State of the Nation address is concerned. Of course, the head of state made his way to Parliament buildings, inspected the guard of honor, which I'm being told here by Prof that it is a measure of fit to command, because you need to inspect the guard of honor for actually the military to ascertain that you're actually fit to command. And yes, the president is fit to command as far as this country is concerned. Of course, we want to cross over to the National Assembly, but before we do that, you know, let's talk about what you're finishing your point on the matters of economy, because I know his speech will touch majorly on that and try to say that the economy is actually doing well at the moment. But when you ask the common people on the ground, they have a different view as far as that is concerned. Why is there a disconnect?
There's a disconnect because actually there are two nations. There's the nation of those in power, and they are enjoying it, and there's the nation of those who carry the burden. So when you collect taxes from people, you collect more, the economy is growing in terms of economic growth, which is revenue. And economic development is deploying this money now to do what they were collected to do. And that is what is not happening. It's called resource distribution. So collection is good, very efficient. Like now, I'm being told that all departments, money goes directly to Treasury. Before, if in, for example, you could be a parastatal, you could be collecting some money, you still have the amount. It's very efficient. It goes directly to Treasury. But after Treasury, does that money come back to what it was supposed to do? You see, there are so many pending bills. So those pending bills, people spend their money. After spending their money, they never got those money given. And those money they spend were in the budget. So what is happening? How can you be having so many pending bills and also you're having so many loans? You should have one problem, either so many pending bills or that you have so many loans because you are paying all the bills. You cannot be saying you are not paying bills and you're borrowing. You're borrowing to do what with it? So that's the issue. But the state of the economy are there issues to look at. Business. The interest rates are very high. Is the president going to tell people that from the 28% interest rate, it's going to be lower so that people can access more money? Are they going to reduce borrowing so that they don't compete with business investors? Because if they are borrowing so much at 18%, then investors prefer to lend to the government than to actually use that money to set up a business. Are they going to reduce the issue of pending bills? Are they going to talk about the issue of adding stimulus in the economy? Are they going to cushion people where there is healthcare, actually having more finance, so that even if you're being taxed, but what is being taxed actually is being cut out for the government. And of course, unemployment rate is that 60% of the young people are unemployed, 20% are underemployed, and that is growing at 25%. So we are going to foresee people who are going to retire before they ever work. Can you imagine you reach retirement age without ever seeing a pay slip? For you, you hear a payroll, a pay slip as just a theoretical thing. You've never seen. So those are the kind of challenges we are seeing. But I believe that the president will want not guide us by macro economic theories. We need micro. How many people, how many businesses are growing from the lower end of the pyramid? Because you talk about the bottom up, he's going to talk about it. He will be talking about the issue of a university funding model because students are now asking for that. But is he going to talk about numbers? After introducing a new university model, after introducing a new funding model, have we seen more people joining campus or less people joining campus? Because that's how we measure economic development, access to education, transition from primary to secondary, the issue of healthcare. You talk about the issue of health service promoters. Are we having more health outcomes? Are we having a lower mortality rate? Lower maternal deaths, isn't it? We want to see the figures that actually make sense. We call them key performance indicators of the economy. They're not working. And if we are not getting more people being employed, yet we are spending money on education, education is not complete until people are employed, because we are seeing that this government read a budget of 4.2 trillion and said they have frozen employment. I found that was the most sick thing. But let me say again that the president has called his first thing by arriving on time. And any other thing now can start going wrong, because you can arrive on time in an examination room, but when the exams begin, when you open the new page, your marks begins moving from 100 to 50 and then to 0. Some, you know, when the answer sheet is given to you, everybody has 100. But as you start writing, your marks goes down. So the president still has 100% on his State of the Nation address. Until he says the first word, then we start marking.
Steve, does he have 100 or does he have 0? Then when he says the first word, now you start marking. And, you know, keeping in, when he says the first word, that's when you're like, okay, well, you've scored 1 as we continue. Let me get this. You see, this particular house that is actually addressing, on the 25th of June, people made their way to, the, you know, in show of dissatisfaction with the government of the day. It's coming back to issue the State of the Nation address here. And during that particular time, talking about human rights violation, that's when we got to see quite, you know, that coming out in a very huge particular manner to the, you know, making international headlines to that extent. What does this, you know, how important would it be to actually get to address some of these issues, especially considering the fact that this house was, you know, got to get the receiving end of the anger of people during the Gen Z protests in June? Great.
Brian, I'd want to start by highlighting one thing. During the protests, there were several demands and clear dissatisfaction items that were brought out by the Gen Zs and also the millennials who joined in the and also the boomers. Actually, it was more of a very good mix of demonstrators.
Yeah, Prof here was in the streets.
So that good mix had specific asks on in terms of inclusiveness, in terms of employment. So there is a lot of people who are graduating from universities, but zero opportunities to them. From my end, what I believe in is economies. I'm not the greatest economist, or in fact, I'm not even a student of economics, but in my very little knowledge of economics 101 is majority of economies are built off the backs of the young people, the middle class and the slightly lower middle class. They have the energy, they have the time, they have the education, and they have the agility to literally do a lot. Be it engineers, be it doctors, be it people who are working just with their hands, be it the art industry. We have a very robust technology economy, and the government at some point, I believe that they're pivoting towards a digital economy. But on the other hand, slapped it with a lot of taxes to curtail the growth. So from my end, I believe that the more young people keep being ignored, keep not being listened to, it keeps catalyzing the already worse situation. So in terms of a marking scheme, I believe, well, 100 is a very high threshold. But again,
Prof said we start from 100, then we start deducting.
Yeah, it should be fair. You know, we don't want to be mean by saying he's starting at 0. Yeah. It's always fair that, you know, if you have a marking, you have an answer sheet, you still start from 100. Because question 1, 4 marks, isn't it? Question 2, 6 marks. Method 1, 1 mark. So as you go wrong method, you are losing. We don't start by saying you are starting from 0. Okay? We always start from up. And also, that's being optimistic. I don't want to be pessimistic about the issue. But nevertheless, I know all Kenyans are already saying, oh, nothing. I can see charts people saying, if the president not talk about the issue of abduction, then this is a waste of time and money. People start by that. But now what's happening is that State of the Nation address is constitutional role, which is stipulated according to the Constitution. If the president just comes and read according to how it is, standard one. Remember the first one, he fell short of it, isn't it? And I scored him 62%. Today I'm waiting.
62 was a little bit on high. It's a B or something.
Yeah, I'm saying 62% because he was still very new, isn't it? And he was making promises. I've told you, I've given you here, isn't it? But now if I look at 50,000 affordable housing to underway, it is not underway. So you see, you start to score him by the things he said he was going to do. Fertilizer, he scored, and he's still scoring. So we leave it to that. NSSF is not working. The community health promoter is not working. The issue of employment of teachers is not working. Even I've been put in a WhatsApp group of over 20,000 teachers who are telling me I should lobby for them to get employed. So there are so many issues here, but I want to say, what is the Wanjiku State of the Nation address, which you had in Kiambu and Muranga, and what is this head of state of the nation address? That is PR he's doing, but this is the real state of the nation. So we are waiting whether the president will bridge the gap between where Wanjiku is and where the head of state is. To the extent he bridges that gap, I'll score him. Me, I'm not score him based on what you think. Me, I'm looking at Wanjiku is here and you are there. How closer to you, how closer to Wanjiku are you moving? If you move closer to Wanjiku, then I know now you are the president of Kenya. But if you are moving closer to you, then you are the president of yourself. Understand? So I'm just honest about it.
Steve, 36 minutes past 2:30, 37 minutes, I believe. I was supposed to have started at 2:30. You said you arrive on time, then, you know, I think we are now at 90.
They're the ones delaying you.
97% maybe. Okay, let me come to you. The Social Health Authority, you know, has been a subject of conversation for the better part of, you know, this year. Transition from NHIF all the way to SHIF, and, you know, people decrying and saying this is not working. And also it's supposed to be in the president's address. But to some extent, a lot of people expect that he's going to champion for it and say it's actually working at the moment. Yet people on the ground are not feeling that. How does he get to balance the two? From where he sits as the head of state, the challenges that this particular transition is facing, and just give the nation the surety that, you know, in the coming days, things are going to be better, so that